Morning glory and evening grace, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Coming up after the break, Senator Dan Sullivan from Alaska. Don't miss that. But I begin with John Podhoretz, editor-in-chief of Commentary Magazine, host of the Commentary Podcast. J-Pod, thank you for joining me an hour before Yom Kippur gets underway. May you have an easy fast. I'm curious, do you turn off all your electronics during Yom Kippur?
I do.
Do you expect there to be a peace? Do you believe there'll be a peace deal on the other side of this year's fast?
I am very agnostic on this. It seems to me that the administration has gone so all in that they must believe that there is a pony under all of that Ronald Reagan crap.
Joke. Yep.
Just to make clear what I'm talking about, Ronald Reagan famously loved to tell the story about the little kid who was such an optimist that he saw a pile of dung and started digging through it. And his father said, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere." So,
Yeah.
the idea that Hamas is ever going to give up seems to me to be the wish taking precedence over the hard truths of the last couple of years, but could happen. I hope
I heard Dan Senor
It's
earlier today. He also released a little thing before Yom Kippur saying Trump has never gone this all in before on a Middle East deal. Turkey has to deal with him for 3.5 years. Qatar has to deal with him for 3.5 years. Egypt has to deal with him for 3.5 years. Everybody is putting it on Hamas, but they're still terrorists, right? They're still ideological fanatics. So why do we think they're going to move?
Well, they're also Iranian proxies. They're not Turkish proxies. They're not even Qatari proxies. They're Iranian proxies. So even though Iran has obviously been, humiliated and is on its back foot based on the attacks that Israel and the United States conducted jointly on the nuclear program and various other things that have happened in the last year and a half, including the loss of their proxy in Lebanon and the loss of their control of Syria. If Iran is still sort of the father of Hamas, then Iran doesn't really have any incentive to let this deal go through. But I hope it does, because it's a great, for everything that I stand for, it's the best deal you could possibly want at this moment, and therefore I do assume that Hamas has very little incentive to agree to it unless it is so devastated by the last couple of weeks and the nature of the assault on Gaza City that it really does actually want to cry uncle and get itself out of the complete disaster that it has walked into.
So that leads me to the big question that I want people to reflect on. 2 years ago next week, the anniversary of the massacre. In those 2 years, I don't know of anyone in Israel, and I'm not an Israeli, I'm not a Jew, but I try and follow it, who could have led the Jewish state better than Bibi Netanyahu. Now, I know that's going to get me in trouble with a lot of my listeners who loathe the guy, but I'm just standing back saying, this has been well played, Mr. Bond, at every turn. Yoav Gallant thought we should go this way. Other people thought we should go that way. You follow it very closely, and your sister lives there. What do you think of what Netanyahu has pulled off in the last 2 years?
Well, I think the proof of the pudding is going to be in the eating. In other words, if this deal comes through, it will be an unbelievably important legacy moment for him. By which I mean, he will have conducted the war, saved the hostages to the extent that that was possible, defeated Hamas, and therefore will erase his response. Not will erase, but will have met his obligation to answer for the fact that over the previous 15 years, all of which but 20 months or something, he was prime minister of the country, he allowed Hamas to build up the capability to attack Israel on October 7th, which is what he faces in historical terms, is the reckoning for that. How he has proceeded in the last 2 years, the kind of dancing that he had to do, that Israelis who don't like him and Americans who don't like him and people like that fail to understand, in keeping himself and Israel close to the United States, both during the Biden era, which was a whole set of different challenges, and during the Trump era, which is obviously much friendlier to his interests, but in which we kept seeing indications that Steve Witkoff and Adam Boehler, his negotiator on the hostages, and various other people would have been perfectly willing, had Bibi mishandled it or had the Israelis moved in certain different ways, to undercut him so that they could claim that they had made a fantastic advance. And he managed to hold himself close to Trump and keep himself as a player in this game in a way that shows a kind of psychological mastery that we really haven't seen, and that he, by the way, doesn't really display in Israeli politics, where he is a much, much more divisive figure than you even can imagine that he is, even though he did, in fact, win a majority for his coalition at the beginning of at the end of 2022. People really hate him. I mean, they hate him the way they hated Nixon. They hate him the way they hate Trump. They believe that he is evil and terrible and monstrous in every way. And a lot of people, even in his own coalition, find him untrustworthy and duplicitous and sneaky and terrible. But given the hand that he has had to play, particularly with the United States and the complexities thereof, it's a masterly piece of statecraft that he has been
It is. It's just amazing. Now, I got one more question for you before you begin your Yom Kippur observation, John. You and I are of the same generation, so is Abe. Christine is younger, Matt and Seth younger still. So I listen to the commentary podcast, but the people that the Israelis are losing are young people throughout the West. And it seems to me that the diaspora is in more danger now than Israel was on 10/8, that it's completely flipped. What is to be done about that? Who's going to speak up for Jews in America now?
That's a very good question. I am very alarmed about this, as you know. I'm alarmed also about the signs and portents on the right, which is to say that the kind of podcast right, this very direct marketed audience right that gets its instant responses on social media and through its audiences on its podcasts, seems to be of the opinion that there is gold to be mined from anti-Israel opinion and anti-Semitic opinion, and that this is something that is making them money and getting them clicks and all of that on our side of the ledger. I mean, I basically have written off the other side of the ledger. I didn't know the extent to which it had to be written off or how bad things were going to get. My general feeling is that nothing succeeds like victory, and that despite the fact that 75% of Democrats or whatever say they now are more sympathetic to the Palestinians than to Israel, a perceived victory in the war against Hamas makes Israel a winner, not a loser, makes Israel the victor, not the defeated. And in general, in the world, it's better to be the victor than the victim. I don't care if victimization is a hot topic and a hot thing in certain circles. The world deals with winners and victors better than it does with people who appear to have been defeated by either not only public opinion but by their enemies. So my guess is the only way out for us Jews is through.
You always want to be the strong horse. I'm curious in a minute, John. Who are the young Jewish Americans who are going to be, like you, like your father, like Matt, like Seth? Who's the 25-year-old? Is there a Charlie Kirk among the Jewish diaspora in America?
I mean, there are plenty. There are plenty, but they are, first of all, they are, as is true of Charlie Kirk, they are religious. They are religious Jews. They are Jews of faith. They are Jews whose faith ties them to Zionism intrinsically, because Judaism is Zionism. Judaism is a religion about becoming a nation and then taking control of the land that God has given us and led us to through the Exodus. And that is what Judaism is. And the more you follow the precepts of the faith, the more important Israel will be and is to you. And the more such people, I think, can speak to people of faith in the United States as opposed to the secular.
Well said. Important. Well, very well said. Have an easy fast, John. I'll see you on the other side of Yom Kippur. Thank you for joining me an hour before you have to get to all that business. Much appreciated. Commentary Magazine podcast. Don't miss it every day.